Hey y'all, it's Danielle from Black Business Boom, and I am here with Amelia Watts from Studio Bank. Amelia is my banker at Studio Bank, and she's also a relationship manager there. And she has so graciously offered to join me today in place of Harry from Studio Bank, who's usually here with us monthly. But Amelia knows all things PPP when it comes to the application process. And I've gotten so many questions about the process. We had the SBA with us a few weeks ago, and we talked about qualifying and things like that. But now we have Amelia with us to answer some more questions that we may have around the actual process of applying, and specifically with Studio Bank. But I'm sure she can lend a lot of education and information about the process in general. So thank you so much for joining us today, Amelia. How are you?
I'm doing well, Danielle. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Fantastic. Like I said, Amelia is my banker, and she's been helping me with this process. And it's been a lot for folks to navigate. It's been, a lot for folks to get used to and gather documents and understand and be denied and reapply. So I'm sure there are folks that have a lot of questions. If you do have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. But just, Amelia, tell us a little bit about the PPP loan. What is it? Just give us some background on it.
Sure. The PPP loan is the Paycheck Protection Program, and the SBA actually implemented this program as a new program due to COVID-19, just to help businesses stay afloat during the pandemic. And it's not only for protecting paychecks for your employees, if you have employees, but it's also for single member businesses. So if you are a sole proprietor or an independent contractor, or a single member LLC, you can also benefit from this program, and it really will help you protect your own paycheck.
Love it. Fantastic. Now, again, it's been a lot. People have had a lot of issues with just navigating the process and applying. So can you give us some tips to just prepare for the process of even trying to go and apply for the PPP?
Sure. So the first tip I would say is definitely get your documentation together. Talk with your accountant, make sure that you have filed your taxes for 2019. And if you haven't filed your taxes for 2019, get with your accountant, because there are some additional documents that you could submit if you haven't completed your taxes for 2019 yet, or I'm sorry, for 2020 yet. I would also say, talk to your banker. If you have a personal relationship with your banker, give them a call, schedule an appointment with them so that they can guide you through the process, because the guidelines are different for specific types of businesses. So if you're a single member business owner, your guidelines may be a little different than a business owner who has a partnership or several employees. So just make sure that you, use your resources. Talk with your banker, talk with your accountant or your CPA, and have them help guide you through this process.
So what I heard you say is it's important to have a banker and to have an accountant or a CPA to help you out. And I think that we've learned that over the last year, the importance of having the right team around us so that when these type of opportunities do arise, we can get the documentation we need, as well as just having our business stuff together, filing our taxes, having our, everything up to date that we should have. And I know that can be hard and daunting, for a business owner, especially a new business owner, to know all of the things. And that is why you do need that support system in place of having your banker that can walk you through this, your accountant that can help you get your taxes done and all that. Nicole had a question for round 2. And so now we had the first round, and now we're in the second round of the PPP. Before we jump into Nicole's question, can you just give us a little background on any changes from the first round to the second round?
Yes, there have been some changes from the first round to the second round. If you received a PPP loan the first round, You do have to prove that you had a reduction in gross revenue of at least 25% from one quarter in 2019 to that same quarter in 2020. So if you're able to prove that, then you are qualified to receive a second round PPP loan. And as far as the new changes that the Biden administration has implemented recently, if you are a single member LLC, an independent contractor, or a sole proprietor, you actually can calculate your average monthly payroll by using your gross income instead of your net profit on your Schedule C. So that really gives you an opportunity to receive more funds. If you had a negative number on your net profit or from your Schedule C from 2020 or 2019, you were qualified to receive a first round PPP loan, but now you can.
I didn't know that. That is great information. And I think that's exactly what Nicole was asking, which banks are allowing for the use of gross income versus net profit. So as far as I understand, they all should be if they're accepting applications right now. Is that the case?
Yes, that is the case.
Okay, fantastic. So I hope that answers your question, Nicole. Let us know if you have any other ones. And she said her bank does not allow for gross income. So you need to get with Studio Bank, right? And so that is the next thing I wanted to talk about. In order to apply for the PPP through Studio Bank, do we have to be a Studio Bank? Do we already have to be a client doing business with Studio Bank?
It's a great question, Danielle. We are making exceptions for some business owners to apply with us if they don't already bank with us. So that would be, something that I could talk to you about, and we can navigate through that once you reach out to me or someone at Studio Bank. We have ways around that. So.
Okay, fantastic. Now tell us a little bit about just like the process. All right, I got all my documents together. I've gotten my, everything from my accountant or whoever it might be that's helping me. Got all my documents together, and now I come to Studio Bank or, whoever I'm applying through. What should I expect of that process?
Big question. So once you have all of your documentation together, and I can speak to Studio Bank's process, we have a third-party system that we're using. It's an online portal where you will essentially enroll in the portal. You'll create an account. You will go through the application process step by step. So the application is going to ask you certain questions about yourself and your business, the type of business you own, what your NAICS code is. That would be good information to find out on the front end. And then it's going to ask you to calculate your average monthly payroll. So depending on the type of business you own, you would really know that average monthly payroll number by talking to your banker to have your banker help you calculate that number, or your accountant who can help you calculate that number as well. But for example, I'll use a Schedule C filer. If you're using the gross income based on the Biden administration's new guidelines, you can take line 7 from your Schedule C from 2019 or 2020 and divide that number by 12, and that's going to give you your average monthly payroll. So you'll enter that number into our system, and our system actually calculates your loan amount for you, but it will multiply your average monthly payroll by 2.5, and that's your qualified loan amount. And then once you submit your application, our team will review it just to make sure that it's all accurate. If everything's accurate, we'll send it back to you to sign the application, and then we will transmit that application to the SBA. The SBA will review the application and hopefully approve you. And once you're approved, we will send you loan documents. So you'll have to agree to the loan terms. And once you've signed and agreed to those loan terms, we will fund your loan.
Fantastic. Now, what about the forgiveness process? Because I know, we're seeing a lot of folks are now putting in their applications for forgiveness. And from what I hear, a very high number of them are being forgiven. So what is that process like to get your loan forgiven?
Again, it's going to depend on the type of business you own, but it's a pretty simple process, and it's very similar to applying. If you get your loan through Studio Bank, you will apply for forgiveness through the same portal that you applied for your application through. And you'll have to answer several questions, how you allocated the funds. You do have to spend at least 60% of those PPP dollars on payroll costs. So, as long as you can attest to all of the qualifications and your forgiveness application, again, we will review it before we send it off to the SBA. And the SBA has been forgiving most of it, if not all of the applications that we submitted for forgiveness. So there's a very high chance that as long as you allocate the funds correctly, then you will be forgiven for the loan.
Wonderful. We had a couple of questions. One is if you can apply for the PPP if you started your business in January of 2020. Someone else was asking about August of 2020, and I'm fairly certain from my conversation with the SBA that if you started in August, you wouldn't qualify, but I don't know. Does that tell us, what the requirements are as far as when you would have had to have been in business, whether you're applying for round 1 or round 2?
You are correct. If the business was started after February 15th, 2020, then you would not be able to apply. But prior to February 15th, 2020, you can apply for the loan.
Okay. Fantastic. And then we have Renika, one of my corner to corner students, who's asking about the requirements of opening a business account with Studio Bank.
We can definitely have a conversation about the requirements for opening a business account. It really depends on the type of business you own. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty simple process. I can have a separate conversation with her and we can talk about that process, but it's pretty simple.
I've gone through it and it was very simple. As long as, again, if you are a real business, which I know Renika is, and you have the right documents, to prove that you are a business, it was very simple for me to send them over and to get everything done, even electronically, without me having to spend time in the bank. And I know that's not really a possibility right now because of COVID. So I'm sure they're doing a lot more of doing things electronically. So how can folks reach you, Amelia, if they have questions around getting a business account with Studio Bank? And then also if they specifically have questions around applying for the PPP through Studio Bank, how can they reach you?
Sure, they can reach me via email. So you can reach me at awatts@studiobank.com. That's AWATTS@studiobank.com. Or you can call me and leave me a voicemail, which I will respond to within 24 hours. You can reach me at 615-338-9646.
Fantastic. And I thank you so much for joining me. As I said, Amelia's been my banker and she's been fantastic. I've been so happy with the service that I've gotten with Studio Bank. So I'm so excited to have them as my resident professional bank for our resident professional program. We had one last question about sole proprietorships and being able to apply for the PPP. If you are a sole proprietor, can you also apply for PPP funding?
Absolutely. As long as you file a Schedule C on your personal tax return, then you can apply for the PPP loan.
Fantastic. Like I said, I think we've learned a lot over this last year about doing what we have to do, doing all of the things for our business so that when opportunities like this come up, we can take advantage of them. And just, even for me, I hadn't filed my taxes and I was like, well, let me do this amendment real quick and get my taxes done. So it's not too late for you to get your taxes done by doing an amendment. It's not too late for you to really get all of your documentation from your accounting system or your accountant. If you don't have an accounting system, I use QuickBooks online. It's very affordable. But again, I think we've learned a lot of lessons about why it's important to keep our businesses in order so that when disaster strikes or when opportunities arise, even, just grant opportunities, whatever it might be, that we can take advantage of them. And especially because our businesses have been hit so hard, our community has been hit so hard by this pandemic. So we have to make sure that we're ready when these type of opportunities arise. So thank you so much for joining me, Amelia. This was fantastic. A lot of great information. Again, if you have questions, please make sure that you reach out to Amelia by email. She's very responsive. Again, I can't say more about the Studio Bank team. They've been amazing in helping me as just being a business account, but then also in navigating this PPP process and the new changes. I don't think we didn't really go much into the new changes that are really tailored toward helping small business owners. So before we drop off, can you tell us a little bit about the changes over the last week and a half or two that we've seen from the Biden administration?
Sure. The main change that the Biden administration implemented was how you calculate your average monthly payroll amount if you are a single member LLC, sole proprietor, or independent contractor who files a Schedule C on their tax return. So originally, during the first draw period, you had to use your net profit, which was line 31 on your Schedule C. Now they've updated that to allow you to use your gross income, which is line 7 from your Schedule C.
Okay.
So it really allowed business owners who maybe had a 0 or a negative number on line 31 and a positive number or a higher number on line 7 to actually be able to apply for the program. Also, they've opened it up for non-fraud felony charges. You're actually able to apply now, whereas before you couldn't. So if you have a non-fraud felony charge, you can now apply for the PPP loan. Also, prior to the second draw, if you were delinquent on your student loans, you could not apply, but now you can.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Those are some major changes that are really going to open this program up to some people who weren't able to access it before.
Yeah. And so from what I understood, they were kind of they were tailoring these changes to help small businesses to be able to apply. Is there some sort of, I heard something about like 5 weeks that were kind of carved out for small businesses. Is that the case, or, will we have a little bit more time? Because I know we're a couple weeks in now.
Mm-hmm. There originally was a 2-week period for businesses that had less than 20 employees, which was supposed to end on March 9th. The SBA was a little bit slow with releasing the new application for those smaller businesses. So, always make sure you check with your banker, because we stay up on all of the new guidelines that are coming out at all times. They're changing things, very rapidly. So, things may change again. So make sure you're contacting your banker and letting them know that you're interested in applying so that they can communicate those changes to you. But also, as of right now, the deadline for applying for this program is March 31st. So we just have about 3.5 weeks until the end of the timeline. But that also may change. So again,
all right,
stay in touch with your banker.
Got to stay up on all this. I'm sure it's a lot for you all to keep up with. It's a lot for us to keep up with as business owners. So we appreciate you guys for staying up to date and keeping us up to date with the changes. Again, please shoot Amelia an email if you have a question, if you're interested in opening a bank account with Studio Bank, located here in Nashville, Tennessee, or if you are interested in applying for the PPP first or second draw, please reach out to Amelia. She can help you with that process. Thank you so much for joining me, Amelia. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure for me too. Thank you, Danielle.
Yes, and thank you for all of your help with everything else as well. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have a great afternoon. All right.